September 14, 1942. Tobruk Harbor is on fire. Star shells hang in the night sky as Royal Marines wade through burning water into a wall of German machine gun fire they were never supposed to face. The surprise that was supposed to protect them is already gone. By dawn, nearly 800 Allied dead will litter this coastline, the price of a plan so intricate it collapsed under the weight of its own ambition. 2 months earlier, Erwin Rommel's Panzerarmee Africa stands within 70 miles of Alexandria, fueled by supplies pouring through the captured Libyan port of Tobruk. British Middle East Command devises a bold answer: sabotage Tobruk's fuel dumps, ammunition stores, and harbor installations before Rommel can resupply for his next offensive. The mission is code-named Operation Agreement, an ambitious pincer combining a secret desert infiltration force with a full-scale amphibious assault, timed to strike in a single night. The plan demands near-impossible coordination. Commandos must cross hundreds of miles of open desert, while a naval task force sails undetected along the Libyan coast at night, both converging on Tobruk at the exact same hour. Cruisers, destroyers, motor torpedo boats, motor launches, and Royal Marines will storm the harbor from the sea the instant the land force opens the gates from within. On paper, it is an audacious, elegant blueprint. In practice, every piece depends on every other piece going right. Leading the overland assault is Lieutenant Colonel John Haselden, a veteran intelligence officer, alongside a secret unit unlike any other in the British Army. Captain Herbert Buck commands the Special Interrogation Group, German-speaking Jewish refugees who have fled Nazi persecution, now dressed in captured Wehrmacht uniforms and driving captured German trucks. On September 2, 1942, this column rolls out of Cairo, bound for the Deep Sahara. Guided by the Long-Range Desert Group, masters of navigation across terrain with no roads, no landmarks, and no margin for error, Haselden's column pushes over 1,500 miles through some of the most brutal country on Earth. Sandstorms bury tracks, engines overheat and fail, and the constant threat of discovery from Axis aircraft stalks every mile of the journey. Simply reaching the outskirts of Tobruk will be a feat of endurance most soldiers never attempt, and this convoy still has to walk straight through the enemy's front door. Inside the disguised trucks, the men of the Special Interrogation Group rehearse their cover story in flawless German, checking captured paybooks and unit insignia one last time. Each carries forged Afrika Korps paperwork, and each knows capture means something far worse than an ordinary prisoner of war camp. Most are German or Austrian Jews who fled Nazi persecution years earlier, and exposure now could mean execution as spies. Their mission is to walk this Trojan horse straight past Axis checkpoints and open Tobruk from the inside. Meanwhile, at sea, the Royal Navy assembles its half of the pincer: the cruiser HMS Coventry, the destroyers HMS Seek and HMS Lu, a flotilla of motor torpedo boats and motor launches, all carrying Royal Marine commandos toward the coast. Their orders are precise: land at night, storm the shore batteries, and hold the harbor for the demolition teams. Precision is exactly what the Mediterranean is about to deny them. On September 13th, Haselden's column reaches the first Axis checkpoints ringing Tobruk. Engines idling in the dark, German sentries step forward, and the disguised commandos of the Special Interrogation Group answer in flawless, native German, waving forged Afrika Korps papers. Checkpoint after checkpoint waves them through. The impossible bluff is working, and the column rolls deeper into the heart of the fortress port. By nightfall, Haselden's force has done what seemed almost unthinkable. They are inside Tobruk's perimeter, undetected, moving into position to seize key points and signal the fleet waiting offshore. It is a triumph of nerve and deception, the payoff of a 1,500-mile gamble that has somehow, against all odds, worked. But out at sea, the second half of Operation Agreement is already falling apart in the dark. Heavy weather rolls in off the Libyan coast that night, whipping the Mediterranean into a chop that scatters the motor torpedo boats and landing craft carrying the Royal Marines far from their intended beaches. Formations break apart in total darkness. Timetables built around split-second coordination between land and sea dissolve into confusion and radio silence. The concentrated, overwhelming assault. The plan called for arrives instead in small, exposed, uncoordinated waves. What British planners do not know, or refuse to accept despite the warning signs, is that Tobruk's garrison has been quietly reinforced in the weeks before the raid, and Axis intelligence has picked up on unusual radio traffic pointing to an attack. The defenders are not sleeping. Searchlights sweep the harbor, gun crews stand ready at their posts, and the element of surprise the entire operation depends on has already evaporated before a single shot is fired. Inside the town, Haselden's men sense the change immediately. Patrols are too alert, checkpoints too tense for a garrison caught off guard. The bluff that carried them 1,500 miles through the desert cannot survive contact with an enemy who is waiting. Within hours, the infiltrators find themselves cut off, hunted through streets they were supposed to be opening, not defending. Delayed by the storm and stripped of the surprise they needed, the Royal Marines finally hit the beaches, straight into the teeth of alert Axis machine guns and coastal artillery. Landing craft are shredded before troops can even reach the sand. Those who make it ashore are pinned down instantly, with no path forward and a fortified enemy on every side. Racing to cover the stranded Marines, HMS Seek closes on the harbor entrance and is caught by Tobruk's shore batteries at near point-blank range. Crippled and burning, the destroyer loses power as shells tear through her hull, killing and wounding dozens of her crew. Her captain, St. John Micklethwaite, refuses to abandon ship, staying aboard to direct the evacuation and salvage efforts as the vessel goes dead in the water. HMS Zulu turns back into the kill zone to take her crippled sister ship under tow, a desperate act of loyalty under fire. Overhead, HMS Coventry has been rushed in to provide anti-aircraft cover for the retreating fleet. Instead, she becomes the priority target for a wave of incoming German Stuka dive bombers. The sky over the retreat turns into a gauntlet of steel and fire. The Stukas find their marks. HMS Coventry is bombed and sunk, and HMS Zulu, still trying to save her stricken sister ship, goes down alongside her, taking many of her crew with her. On land, Lieutenant Colonel Haselden fights a rearguard action to buy his trapped men time to slip away, and is killed in the fighting. For those still pinned down on the beaches and in the town, the order finally comes to surrender. By the next morning, the cost of operation agreement is staggering. Roughly 800 Allied personnel are dead. Nearly 576 more are taken prisoner by the Axis, and the Royal Navy has lost 7 vessels in a single night. A cruiser, 2 destroyers, and 4 motor torpedo boats, gutting Britain's coastal strike force in the Mediterranean almost overnight. Among the captured are members of the Special Interrogation Group, the German Jewish commandos whose disguise had carried the entire land assault into Tobruk in the first place. For men who had already fled Nazi persecution once, capture while wearing enemy uniform carries a uniquely brutal risk. Exposure could mean summary execution rather than a POW camp. Exactly how many maintained their cover story under interrogation, and what ultimately became of each man, remains uncertain and only partially documented to this day. Strategically, the raid achieves almost nothing it set out to do. Tobruk's fuel dumps and port machinery survive largely intact, and Rommel's supply lines remain essentially untouched as his Panzer Army prepares to face the British at El Alamein weeks later. Even Rommel himself later acknowledges the raw courage of the men who struck at his rear, courage spent, in the end, on a plan so tangled that it could not survive contact with reality. Operation Agreement remains one of the costliest special operations failures of the Second World War, not for lack of daring or skill, but because it demanded that a 1,500-mile desert bluff and a full naval assault both go perfectly on the same night, with no room for a single storm or a single alert sentry. Its own code name would prove painfully ironic. Almost nothing about that night in Tobruk went according to agreement.